Well, good morning everybody. The time has finally come to see how the root cellar got built. It's a mozzie old Saturday morning, the 2nd of April. The rain is coming down, it's not going sideways anyway, that's a good thing. I want to talk about how I built the cellar, where it came from, where I got the idea, how did I build it. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my background. Before anybody gets any big ideas, thinks they can do this, go buy a bit of plywood and some nails and build a root cellar. Yeah, that's not going to happen. See, I got about 27 years experience doing stuff like this. I've been up 16, 18 feet in the air pouring concrete into foundation walls. So this is not something you can just do in a weekend. 27 years experience pouring concrete. This was something I could do basically on my lunch break, right? Don't get any fancy ideas. You and your neighbour Bob are not going to be able to buy some plywood and bang this together, because there's an awful lot of pressure on concrete when you get up 5 and 6 feet high. So you can forget that, unless you know what you're doing. I'm not saying don't try it, but you better know what you're doing, because you can make some mess, and concrete does not forgive. So basically what I'm saying, don't try this at home. I'm what you call a professional. Well, the first thing you got to do, I suppose, is dig a hole. So we got Mr. Rental Place to drop us off a nice little 3-ton excavator, and we got to digging. I was hoping for a hole about 5 feet deep. My cellar was going to be 6 by 8 on the outside, so I was hoping to get a hole about at least 10 foot by 12 foot. Unfortunately, as luck would have it, we struck a big old chunk of cliff, bedrock. But then we had to start regrouping, and we had to modify our plan somewhat. See, this black pipe basically is the back corner of my cellar. Runs straight down here. Now, the original plan was to have the back corner way back here. The back is supposed to be back here about 6 feet from my boundary, which is roughly here. Now, that bit of bedrock, that cliff that runs on a slope, that runs right under my cellar on an angle. So basically the issue was, the further I went down, the more I'd have to go ahead, and every foot I went ahead was a foot I'm losing off my backyard. Once you start going ahead, we're losing backyard. Right now there's about 12 feet. There's about 12 feet from my cellar to my back deck. Didn't want to come ahead too far, so there was a few moments, and I had the excavator parked right here at the edge of this hole, and I thought about putting all that fill back in that hole and saying, shag all this for the day, and give it up and try to find something else, somewhere else to put it. Say the hell with it. But after a couple of wobbly pops, cooler heads prevailed. After I calmed down and regained my composure, another bit of scratching and changed the plan a little bit, we finally had a hole that we could do something with. So it was time to start putting in the concrete. I decided to pour a slab rather than a footing, and that'll come back to haunt me later. See, if I had poured a footing with a dirt floor, any water that infiltrated would have somewhere to go. It would just soak down through the ground. But with the slab, any water that got in was trapped. So I had some problem in the first winter with water, and I had to drill a series of holes in that slab right through. Seems to be working so far. No water problems since. Here's the back of the cellar, and this is where the water was coming in. So in back here, we had to drill a bunch of holes. I just used a 5/8 to the masonry bit. Drilled a dozen or so, a couple of dozen holes around the perimeter. Any water comes in, just leaks down, back down through them holes. And she is dry. She's dry as a cork in here. Four holes there, a few holes. I got holes, basically got holes all around. So now that we got our slab in place, the time has come to start putting up the walls. And I have a set of forms myself. You need the proper stuff. You can't just do this with plywood. You can, but it's a lot more work. But I had the proper forms, so it was only a matter of clickety-click, barber trick. This is something I do every day, so it's really no big deal for me to put up this. It's basically just a tiny little box, 6 foot by 8 foot. Unfortunately, that's the only picture I took of the forms in place. So we got our box done. We got some 25 MPa concrete in the walls. That's a little extra strength. Normally in a wall we do 20 MPa. We poured a 6-inch wall, 6-inch thick. The cellar itself, the ceiling height, I think is around 7 feet. So we got a box, and we got a concrete floor. So now we got to get the roof. We got to figure out what we're going to do for the roof. This was the easy part. I've never done a suspended slab before in my life, and I was as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, because if this didn't go right, this whole cellar would be filled with concrete, and once that hardens, there's no way of getting it out. So we had to figure it out. I didn't know how to do this, so I just did what I always do. I just winged it. So one of the big problems with concrete, it's heavy. It doesn't want to stay where you put it. So I knew I had to support the concrete. I wanted to put about a 6 or 7 inch slab on the top. There's a little bit of rebar in it, not much. And that was going to take roughly 1 cubic meter. Now, for those of you who don't know, there is about 5,500 pounds in a cubic meter of concrete. In order to support that, I made a trip to the local sawmill and I bought some rough 2x4s. What I had to do was stud out the inside of the cellar, build some walls out of that 2x4. You can see the stud walls in this picture. So I spaced the studs about 16 inches and I put a plate on the top and the bottom. And then it was only a matter of running joists from side to side, shortest span. And then I took some old wall forms that were wore out. I laid the forms face up on top of those joists. Now, in order to support the middle, I had a pile of firewood logs there with some nice 6-7 inch logs. So I cut 3 of those off the right length, and I ran a 2x12 beam right from the center of the back to the front, and that would support the middle of those floor joists. So with 5,000 pounds of concrete pushing down, you don't want to leave nothing to chance. So I made sure that this was overkilled. So I had your stud walls inside. I had some 2x4 joists. There was a 2x12 beam, a double 2x12 beam running down the middle, supported with 6-inch lags. And then there was forms were laid on top, right? So that was going to support all that 5,000 pounds of weight. And to my surprise, that didn't budge, not a millimeter. Didn't budge. I was frightened to death, but she didn't budge, and I was a happy camper. She held solid, didn't budge. The thing about concrete work, when you build stuff, it has to be strong enough to withstand the pressures and the weights and all the forces that's exerted. But here's the thing, it's got to be easy to dismantle. That's the trick. So we got our platform that's going to hold up the concrete, going to hold it up. Now we got to keep it inside. So that was accomplished by simply getting the right length 2x12 drilled into the concrete wall, and we use how we do that, we use a 1/8-inch drill bit to drill the hole through the 2x12 into the concrete. Then it's fastened with a galvanized 3.5-inch nail and a piece of wire, and it fits perfectly and does not move. We nailed our 2x12s all the way around, and that made a formed the face of this. And then it's only a matter of taking the laser level and shooting a level line down each side. I didn't want water to pool, so I just made a gentle arch, if you will. Any water that gets on it now, I mean, the water will not pool. And then it was a matter of figuring out what kind of concrete we were going to use. So what I ordered for the top was some 35 MPa with fibre mesh in it. It's the same concrete to use in curbs and sidewalk, bridges, overpasses, suspended slabs. There's not a lot of rebar in this. I have one piece of 5/8 rebar that runs down the centre, and I got probably six along that. It's like an old-time TV antenna, right? This has been here a year and a half now, no cracks whatsoever. Called up my old good buddy Robert at the batch plant there. He sent me up a cubic metre of 35 MPa with fibre mesh, and we got the pouring. And let me tell you, I was stood up on this with my rubber boots on, and my blood pressure was on max. I didn't know if this was all going to hold, never done this before. But anyway, we poured her up, she held. Happy camper. Now we're happy. We got our cap on. Get the cap on her. We give her 3 or 4 days to dry out. Then it's time to roll the old foundation coating on her. Keep the water out. And you know, rolling this stuff on that concrete, that was a lot of fun. No, it wasn't fun at all. I hated every second of it. But it had to be done. Keep as much water out as I could. So we got that on, let that dry for a day or two. Then we threw a few big rocks around the bottom. Help with any water that might, because I had that bedrock there and there was water running down there. Not really running, but you could see the water there. Of course, it's been about 3 weeks now since I started at this, so that excavator I had is gone. And I called them up to drop me off another one so I could backfill it. And they didn't have it. She was already rented out. Well, they sent me up this little tiny thing. I'd say it was built by Tonka. A little tiny bucket on her about that big. We managed to get her backfilled. The whole reason a root cellar works is because you're fooling your vegetables into thinking that they're still underground in their dormant state, right? So in order to do that, you got to basically put them underground. So it gets backfilled as much as possible. I'd like to have another foot or so of fill on top of this before this summer is over. Bought a little tractor last year. And you know, I can pick away at that. Henry, you're spoiling my movie. No, you're not. You're making the movie, honey. I'm going to put some grass and sod and maybe I might even plant vegetables on top of it. Now that'd be funny. Now that we got our backfilled, damp-proofed, backfilled, it's time to put a door in her. See if it's going to work. Getting late now. It's probably getting near the end of September now. It's soon time to start digging potatoes. So I wanted to see how this was going to work. A quick trip to the dump. Found an old door that someone threw out, a steel door with styrofoam inside of it. So I brought home that door from the dump and cut it to fit. You're so silly. You're so silly, pussycat. Just cut it to fit, and then I needed another one for the outside. So I made the double door. Built a few shelves. There you have it. That's the root cellar, and it's working quite well. I put the electronic sensor in her, and you can see the temperatures, the humidity, darkness is obvious. It's working perfectly. You can see that the temperature inside that cellar is plus 2 degrees Celsius. The humidity is right up around 94%, which is perfect. If the humidity is too low, see, all your vegetables are going to get wrinkly, they're going to lose their moisture. But when the humidity is high like that, it's harder for moisture to move from one object. So it's working perfectly. The potatoes and everything in there are stored perfectly. Carrots are wonderful. It's been a couple of months now since I made that first video, the wildly popular root cellar video. But here we are, the 4th of April now, and all them vegetables in there are still perfect. Now boys, that was a hard video to make. I hardly had any footage building this cellar, but I had to use my imagination quite a bit on this one. Hope you enjoyed it. I try not to get too technical, too involved, but just to give you a general idea, this took the total build, I suppose from the time I dug the hole till the time I put the door in, I suppose about 3.5 weeks all told. And that was picking at it when I had days off. We're here now, it's the first part of April. All these vegetables have been in here since October sometime, so everything is in here about 6 months. And these are still like, they're just perfect. And for those of you who likes the carrot snap, look at her. Still good, buddy. Juicy, look. Just look. So that's it. That's how she goes. Like, just remember that I does this for a living. I does it, doing it for over 25, 26, 27 years. I don't know how long, I can't remember. Time flies when you're not having fun. It's just an everyday thing to me. It's so common that I really don't know what kind of things people want to see in the video. So here's what I'm proposing. If you got a question for me about the root cellar or any other videos I got, I do have other videos, you know, not just a root cellar video. You can watch the other videos too, you know, when you get a chance. Here's what I'm proposing. When you're done watching this video, have a look around, and if you got any questions, comment down below, and I'll do a video and I'll answer every single question that's in those comments. I'll mention your name, do the whole kit and caboodle. The only thing I'm not doing is giving away no more $50. Times are tough and times are hard. If you like this video, just take a second and click that old subscribe button down there. Click like. If you click like, YouTube will share my videos around all around the interwebs, and that'd be a great thing. I suppose it would. I don't know. Like and subscribe. Thanks for coming by. I'll see you next time I look at you.